It's a dark time for Celtic. On and off the pitch. A 2-0 defeat at Dens Park, and not just a bad result. A performance that left fans feeling more disconnected than ever. And let's be honest, this wasn't just a one-off. This wasn't a freak result where you say, oh, it was just a bad day. No, this felt like a symptom of something much deeper. Something that's been building for months. You look at that Celtic team and the feeling hits you. This just doesn't look like a side that believes in itself anymore. And more worrying than the lack of goals, more than the poor finishing or the flat performances, is that growing sense of apathy. Among the players, among the fans, and maybe even the manager. Let's go back to the start of the match. When the lineup dropped, any small buzz you might have felt going into the game just disappeared. A lot of fans had convinced themselves, again, that this would be the match we finally click. That after the dramatic late win against Motherwell before the international break, we might have turned a corner. But the same tired lineup, the same faces that have been underperforming week in, week out, it was like a punch to the gut. Schmeichel in goal again, despite a string of unconvincing displays. Ralston starting, when you've got better options either fit or needing minutes. The midfield trio of McGregor, Hatate and Negrin, completely off balance. And up top, Young starting again despite showing next to nothing for weeks. It was like watching the same failed formula being repeated again and again, hoping for different results. And what's the definition of that again? What's even worse is that nobody seemed shocked when we went behind. Disappointed, sure. But shocked? No chance. This team doesn't strike fear into anyone anymore. There's no identity, no spark, no urgency, no grit. You'd expect Celtic, even on a bad day, to at least overpower a team like Dundee. You'd expect some fight. But there was none of that. Not from the first whistle. Dundee were allowed to grow into the game. Allowed to play. Allowed to believe. That should never happen. Not against Celtic. Not with the resources and quality that this club should have at its disposal. And yet, that disconnect between expectation and reality is what's killing us. It's not even anger that fans are feeling anymore. It's just emptiness. It's watching the game and feeling like you already know what's coming. That hopeless predictability is maybe the worst part of it all. You've got players like Carter Vickers, who's been one of the most solid defenders we've had in years, now looking like a shadow of himself. McGregor, who used to drive this team forward, now looks lost, often passing sideways, demanding the ball back just to recycle it again without progressing. Hatate looks like he doesn't even want to be on the pitch at times. The basics aren't there anymore. Touches are heavy, passes go astray, players hide. And when that's happening across the squad, not just one or two, it says something bigger is wrong. Then you've got the manager, Brendan Rodgers, a man with pedigree, a man with history here. But he's giving off the vibe of someone who's run out of ideas. You watch him on the touchline, and it's all flat. No urgency, no spark. You hear him after the game, and it's the same recycled lines. We've lost goals, we've lost pace. I need to find a solution. The latest one about the Honda Civic and Ferrari? What was that even meant to be? Honestly, it came across more as defeatist than insightful. Rodgers has the tools, maybe not perfect, but enough to build something better than what we're seeing. The constant insistence on picking the same underperforming players over and over again. What's the logic there? Is he too safe now? Too stubborn to make changes? Or does he just not trust the alternatives? Because let's be honest, we saw flashes from guys like Bialisha in recent games. Why is he not starting? Why are fresh faces not being given a proper chance? At some point, being professional and experienced stops being a strength and starts being a liability when it means blocking hungry players with something to prove. What really hammered it home was that moment in the second half, the second goal. Hatate loses the ball in the middle of the park. He gets bodied. Nobody tracks the run. Nobody puts in a challenge. Dundee sliced through the midfield and defense with such ease, it was like training. And the worst part? Celtic didn't respond. No fire. No energy. No real attempt to grab the game back. The team looked like it had already accepted defeat. And that's the most alarming thing of all. Because even under previous poor spells, even during the darkest days of that infamous COVID season, you still saw some fight. A few players still showing something. But now, it's just flatlining. The attitude, the confidence, the belief, all gone. We're looking at a Celtic side that feels emotionally finished. Not just tactically off, but mentally cooked. And sure, the protest before the match with fans throwing objects on the pitch at kickoff that made headlines. People tried to say it disrupted the team, but that's nonsense. The game kicked off right after. No excuse. We've seen similar protests before without any dip in performance. The fans have every right to protest. Because what else are they meant to do when they see their club, their team, sliding like this? What's clear is that there's no harmony anywhere. Not between the board and the fans. Not between the players and the manager. Not between what's being said and what's being done. This isn't just about a few bad games. It's about a team that's crumbling before our eyes. And if drastic action isn't taken soon, whether that's tactical, personnel-wise, or even higher up the chain, then this season will keep slipping away. And it might already be doing just that. There's this uncomfortable truth Celtic fans are starting to face. This might not just be a slump. This might be what we are now. And that thought is terrifying. Because when you've grown up watching Celtic teams that fight, that dominate, that impose themselves on any opponent in the country, watching a version of the club that looks passive, predictable, and lifeless, it hits differently. You don't just feel frustration, you feel loss. Like something's been taken away. And people will point fingers. Some at the board, some at Brendan Rodgers, others at the players. The truth? It's probably all of them. The board failed in the summer. They failed in previous windows too. The recruitment has been nothing short of dreadful, and that's not even up for debate anymore. We're carrying a bloated squad with too many players that just aren't good enough. And the few that have been reliable in the past, they're either regressing or playing like they'd rather be anywhere else. The middle of the park is the clearest example of that. McGregor, once the heartbeat of the team, is now being asked to do too much with too little support. Negrin doesn't even look like he knows what his role is. And Hatate? He might still produce the occasional flash, a clever ball, a moment of risk, but it's surrounded by sloppiness and a clear lack of rhythm. The trio together offers no balance, no bite, no control. How can you dominate matches when your midfield constantly turns over the ball, loses second balls, and doesn't win any duels? And Rodgers keeps putting them out there, over and over again, as if hoping that one day it'll just click. But this is not about waiting for magic to happen. Celtic cannot afford to just wait and hope. Not in this kind of season. Not when your rivals are gaining ground and building momentum. Not when your performances are this flat and predictable. Even the defense, which has been a strong point for years, is cracking. Carter Vickers looks off it physically and mentally. The aggression, the timing, the composure, it's all dipped. Ralston gets a lot of stick, and maybe rightly so, but why is he still being picked? The manager has options. Maybe not great ones, but different ones. And at this point, surely change is better than stubbornly sticking with what clearly doesn't work. That front three? A complete non-threat. No intensity, no clever movement, no unpredictability. Young on the wing has offered next to nothing for weeks. Ian Acho is still miles off full fitness, and we're having to rely on him, as if he's already a top number 9. That's the fault of the club. No question. You don't go into a season like this with a striker who's been without preseason and expect him to carry the team. That's negligence. And then you've got the comments post-match. From Rodgers. From McGregor. All cut from the same cloth. They're starting to feel like scripts. Talking about pressure. About staying together. About finding solutions. But there's a massive disconnect between the words and the actions. You can't keep saying, we need change, and then roll out the same team, the same system, the same subs, and expect anything to change. Even when Celtic get chances, the finishing is abysmal. Tierney's chance in the first half? Gotta be scoring. Ralston skied one into the stand. Ian Acho had a decent effort, but it's nowhere near enough. The few chances we do create aren't even hitting the target. If you're not even testing the keeper, what are we doing? You hear Rodgers talk about lacking a Ferrari and being handed a Honda Civic. Honestly, it's insulting. To the fans. To the players. Celtic still have a better squad than Dundee. Than Street Mirren. Than Kilmarnock. Than the vast majority of teams in this country. So if we can't beat them, it's not because we don't have the tools. It's because we're not using them properly. The responsibility is with the manager to set the tone, to get more out of the players he does have. You don't win titles just by complaining about what you don't have. And listen, the fans aren't stupid. They've seen these cycles before. This isn't their first rodeo. That's why the protest happened. That's why there's growing unrest. Because we've been here before. Letting things spiral until it's too late. The 2020 COVID season didn't fall apart overnight. It was a slow, painful unraveling. And this feels eerily similar. Except this time the fans are in the stands watching it happen, week after week, unable to understand how the standards have dropped so quickly. There's a real danger that this whole campaign becomes about damage control, that we stop looking forward and start trying just to contain the collapse. That cannot be the mentality at Celtic Football Club. But with every passive performance, every bland team sheet, every lifeless first half, that's where we're heading. And when you look at the fixtures coming up, the alarm bells get louder. Sturm Graz in Europe, Hearts at Tynecastle, Rangers in the Cup, Midtjylland, Falkirk. It's relentless. But the bigger problem is, who honestly believes we'll get something from these games? Who believes this team, in its current state, can go on a winning run? There's no momentum, no cohesion, no signs of recovery. Just late winners papering over cracks and the same old issues cropping up again the next week. If we're going to turn this around, Rodgers needs to be bold, not safe, not loyal to players based on what they used to do. He needs to make changes that shake things up, whether that's bringing in youth, giving more minutes to guys like Donovan or Murray, or even rotating McGregor if he's not performing. It might sound drastic, but we're past the point of small fixes. Otherwise, we keep falling deeper into the rut. And fans, rightly, will start to lose faith, not just in the players or the manager, but in the entire direction the club is heading. This week could define the season, maybe even the future of Brendan Rodgers at the club. Because if things don't turn now, if performances don't improve and results don't come, the conversation will shift. It won't just be about the board anymore. It'll be about the manager, about whether this second spell is salvageable, or whether, like so many of the players on that pitch, the story's already over. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a buzz rolling through the East End o' Glasgow this morning. The kind o' murmur that gets the pubs rattling and the green and white faithful dreaming bigger than ever. Word on the cobbled streets says LUKA MODRIĆ. That LUKA MODRIČ, Real Madrid's midfield maestro, Ballon d'Or winner, and the man who once ran Europe's best ragged, has put pen to paper why Celtic. It sounds wild. Maybe too wild. But there's smoke, and where there's smoke, there's often a dram or two o' truth. Sources close to Parkhead are staying tight-lipped, though a few insiders claim a short-term deal's already been struck, with Modric keen on one last grand adventure before hanging up his boots. The Croatian legend, now 40 but still gliding across pitches by the grace of a fiddler bow, is said to be enamored by the idea o' playing in front of the Celtic faithful, 60,000 strong, and singing loud enough to shake the heavens. The rumors began late Friday evening, when a private jet from Madrid touched down at Glasgow Airport under a thin mist. A handful of eagle-eyed fans swore they saw a familiar silver mane behind tinted glass, and by Saturday, the internet was ablaze with talk o' Modric donning the hoops. Some say it's a publicity stunt. Others believe it's the kind o' coup only Celtic could dream up, a statement that the boys still belong among Europe's greats. If the whispers hold true, Modric would become one of the most decorated players ever to grace Scottish soil. Imagine the sight, Callum McGregor beside a man who's lifted the Champions League 5 times. Even the thought's enough to set Parkhead alight. Nothing's official yet, mind. But in Glasgow, folk ken how quickly dreams turn to songs, and songs to legend. And if LUKA MODRIC truly has signed for Celtic, this might just be the tale that'll be sung for generations. A Croatian prince in green and white, right in his final chapter beneath the paradise lights. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.